One of the ways that we keep our costs down for gardening is by producing our own compost and dirt. And I thought I'd share with you guys how we do it. I know there's a lot of different ways out there, but this way has cost us zero. It costs us nothing, and it's a great way to get started gardening. We originally started with one little pallet section.
You remember our first compost pile?
It was
a circle of mesh. We just kept throwing stuff in. And then eventually it filled up. And
it took a long time.
Eventually it filled up. We never used it for anything. We just kind of use it for disposal and not for anything else. But now, what we do, we start out with the junk here, and then we flip it to the next pile, to the next pile, and the next pile. By the time it gets to here, it's pretty good. And then if there's, well, this is our like overflow. It depends upon what time of the year it is and all that. This is the pile that we use from.
This is almost ready to use.
Yeah, well, since I flipped it, this was the stuff that was in the other pile. But yeah, it's almost ready to use, and we have a lot of really good compost.
So how we made this is we found some pallets, and we've found more pallets as we've gone along.
So show them this one. Obviously, as you use them, the pallets turn into compost too. So.
And we just divide them into those four or five sections, however big you need. It does require some manpower in moving stuff. I'd love to get a skid steer and
yeah, maybe someday.
Someday. But what we have in here are our kitchen wastes. Our weeds primarily go to the chickens. Then our chicken compost goes in here. So that's what you're seeing here is a lot of the hay. And then in our beginning pile, you're going to see these are funny. You're probably wondering, what are these? And those are disposable packing peanuts. You do have to be careful what kind of packing peanuts you put in your compost, because there are styrofoam packing peanuts that will not compost at all, but the disposable ones you certainly can add to your compost pile. It's not going to hurt it at all. The other thing that we add is sometimes cardboard boxes. Most ink on cardboard boxes is completely food safe, especially on pizza boxes. So that goes in here as well to just decompose. And you can go and Google about the ratio of brown waste versus green waste and how you should turn it. And there are additives that you can add, bone meal, blood meal. You can add some fertilizer to this to get your pile activated. There are cold piles and hot piles. I prefer a hot pile. That's why we turn this, and Art will be adding some water to this to really heat this pile up, because we're in May, so this pile has been dormant all winter, and we want to heat it up. And you really have to gauge if your pile needs water, because if it's too dry, the microbes won't be able to do their work, but if it's too wet, you'll drown them. So it's not a huge science. Just feel your pile, see how wet it is. In this case, you can see the bottom chicken stuff is very wet, but the top stuff was very dry. So by mixing this all in, we're really going to activate this pile. And I'm going to come back in a week and show you, well, it might be sooner than a week. I'm going to keep an eye on the pile. I'm going to bring you guys out here, and you're going to see how this pile heats up, and it's going to shrink really quickly when that happens. Because this is a winter pile, we don't have a lot of greens in here. Otherwise, we'd be mixing the greens into it, but we're just not there yet. So we're just going to turn this now, and you guys can do this. This is not hard at all. Put your kitchen waste in here, put your leaves in here. Don't do sticks, don't do meat or dairy. It'll make your pile really stinky. But pretty much everything else can go straight in this pile, and you will make beautiful dirt. So we will be back in a few days. I'll show you how this pile heats up and how it's doing. These little guys are doing great work on our compost. Where'd you go? I lost you. Oh, there you are, right there. A whole bunch of them in here eating away. After the compost is done, if you want, you can screen it. We usually don't. It just breaks down more in the soil. I just put it in the garden, and it is pick out any sticks or anything that might have landed in there. But you certainly can screen it and then use it like you normally would when you're planting your tomatoes or any of your garden plants. You can just either put it on the surface, or you can put it within the hole, and it's really good stuff. You don't have to use fertilizer. And particularly if you're using manures in there and adding that to it, you're just making it more diversified and more complete for your garden.
Whenever I encounter any large sticks, I just take it from one pile and throw it back that way. Good stuff goes that way, the bad stuff goes that way. So by the time it ends up there, it's good.
And that's part of the reason why this pile over here
why it looks so dreadful.
looks why it is, because the freshest compost is here, and then Art has all the sticks right there. It's been 9 days since Art turned the compost, and I have my handy kitchen thermometer. I'm going to test it and see if this pile warmed up at all. I just haven't had a chance to come out and check it. So it very well could have already heated up and be cooling down, but I'm hoping that we're going to see a temperature of about 120 in one of these piles, maybe even a little hotter. I think you can see how the piles have already shrunk, and that is probably because of them heating up. But let's test these and see what temperature they are. It's 66 degrees in the air temperature, so I'm going to go ahead and stick my probe in there, and we'll see if this is heated up at all. 82. Okay, so that section is 89 right there. I'm going to try another section of the pile. Now this is in the back part of the pile, right back there. And that's almost up to, oh, that's 96 Art. So it's heated up, but I think it's, oh, look what I see. That's a tomato plant. Mm-hmm. And if you go over here, that's some type of squash or pumpkin plant. Now I suspect that this pile here won't heat up at all because it's already been pretty well decomposed. If you look again in the pile, this is some type of kale, radish. It could be a cabbage, but I didn't grow cabbage last year. See, there's a whole bunch. There's one there. There's a bunch there. Put that in. Just like I thought, this pile's already been activated at least twice as it went through that turning process, and it's not going to activate anymore. So that means this is pretty much completely ready to go. Oh, there's another squash plant. That's the beautiful thing about compost, is you get to see a whole lot of new seeds and new life happening here.
Let's go into the middle of the compost pile and see what we have.
I think part of that is because that's already decomposed a lot more.
Get your thing. Yeah, that one's not too warm.
No, I'm thinking this one's going to be warmer.
Oh yeah, that's one.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. It's going up slowly.
Yeah. So it's got to be getting close to that 120 mark. And it may have already hit 120 as cooling down at this point. Okay, so that's 111 there.
Yeah, it's a little toasty.
That's a little toasty, and if we turned it again, Art, and add a little bit more water, it would heat this pile up for another time. So that's how we do our compost. If I had tested this every day, I would see that temperature rise and fall. I think we're on the downward trend now, but we're almost at that 120 mark, which is what I really like to see in my piles. And we'll just go ahead and turn them again in probably a couple weeks, use up what we have, and these piles will just all throughout the summer continue to decompose and be ready to throw into the garden whenever we need it. I hope this inspires you to try your own compost pile. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe for more gardening videos this summer, and we'll see you next time. Bye.